The alarms didn't sound like sirens. They sounded like chimes breaking. High Chair Illyra watched the main hololith fracture into 100 streams of light above the Grand Council chamber. At first, it showed a stable yellow dwarf, catalogued as Helion 3, burning with the slow patience of billions of years. Then a timestamp appeared in the corner, 00, and the star began to die. Its corona spasmed inward, spectral lines nodded, then bent the wrong way. In the hushed amphitheater, 12 banners rippled in conditioned airflow, their colors reflected in alien eyes. Crimson for the Sarakai, emerald for the Valkreth, silver for the crystalline Vessery. Humanity's faded blue circle hung dim and forgotten at the edge of the ring. Begin playback at 1/3 speed, Illyra ordered. Confirmed, said the chamber AI. 041. Helion 3's light collapsed into a bruised orange, then to a dirty violet. Around it, 3 inhabited worlds traced small, fragile arcs. Data cascaded along the hololith. Edge, population counts, atmospheric profiles, traffic density. The final tally locked into place. 4.1 billion on Helion 3's inner moon, 3.7 billion on the outer gas ring habitats, 4.2 billion in orbital megastructures at Varda's Reach and the Kassar Line. Total recorded sentience, the AI announced softly, 12.0 billion. The star pinched at the center, not outward like a supernova, but inward, as if something unseen had taken a bite. Its photosphere wrinkled, then folded into a narrow throat of black. The chamber dimmed with it, smart panels compensating a fraction too late. Someone hissed in the Vasari delegation. A Sarakai officer's claws scraped stone. "Freeze there," Illyra said. The image halted at 0113. "What you are seeing," intoned Archivist Thale of the Orax, frills held tight against his skull, "is not gravitational collapse. Mass is not conserved. Emission spectra are wrong. This is not stellar evolution. This is event manufacture." A low murmur rolled through the platforms. "The signals?" demanded Councillor Vreth of the Sarakai. 8 feet of scarred muscle shifted in ceremonial armor. "Any distress from the colonies?" Thale's inner eyelids flicked. "Last traffic stopped at timestamp 006. No coherent emission afterward. No debris, no residual flare. Only this." He gestured, and the hololith resumed. 0134. Helion 3 vanished. Not exploded, not faded, vanished. Its light strangled down to nothing, replaced by a spreading halo of particulate shimmer. Metallic dust billowed outward in a slow, elegant sphere, catching the distant glow of other stars and throwing it back as a fine, glass-like glitter. At 0253, the same dust halo appeared around Varda's Reach. At 0308, the Kassar Line. 3 systems in less than 4 minutes. 12 billion lives converted into silence and reflective ash. When the hololith finally went dark at 04, the chamber's own heartbeat filled the air. Air circulators, quiet servos, the faint buzz of greasing. "This is an invasion," Vreth growled. "Some weapon. Find the vector. Trace the source. Whoever did this." "There is no approach vector," Thale cut in. "No inbound mass. No conventional energy spike. Only a thin spike in anomalous field strength, duration 3.7 seconds, immediately preceding each collapse." "A natural phenomenon, then," suggested the crystalline Vasari minister, tones chiming in uneasy chords. "An unknown instability. We should evacuate nearby sectors and leave what?" Vreth snapped. 3 empty holes where our people used to be?" Arguments detonated across the tiers. Evacuation versus retaliation, anomaly versus attack, panic disguised as policy. Numbers flashed across secondary hollows, 5 neighboring systems at risk, 23 billion more lives within probable anomaly radius, 72 major trade routes intersecting the region. Each data point tightened the air. We will not dissolve. Into fear, Elira said at last, voice cutting through the noise like a blade through silk. We will respond. She lifted one hand. Above her, a new projection spun into existence. An armada schematic, forming layer by layer. Curved hulls, radiant shields, formation markers. The initial proposal for a grand response force. Proposal: assemble an emergency armada of 4,900 warships, drawn proportionally from all 12 member civilizations. Objective: intercept and analyze any further anomaly events, protect remaining border systems, and demonstrate unified strength. Delegates seized on the numbers like a lifeline. 4,900. A wall of metal and light to hide their fear behind. Vreth immediately demanded frontline command. The Vesari argued for more research vessels. Others insisted on ceremonial flagships to reassure their homeworlds. While they argued, a human figure stood at the far edge of the lowest tier, beneath dim blue circle. Envoy Mara Patel had not spoken once during the playback. Now she raised 2 fingers, the minimum gesture for recognition. Her dark uniform bore no ornament, only a small old insignia over her heart. The Terran delegation requests access to the raw telemetry, she said. Thale blinked in annoyance. Summaries have been provided to all member states. Summaries are interpretations, Mara replied, tone calm, almost gentle. We need the unfiltered stream, every frame, every fluctuation, every anomaly down to the last microsecond. Vreth's eyes narrowed. To what end, human? Your fleets are limited, your models outdated. Mara looked up at the empty hololith, at the invisible dust cloud still expanding in the dark. To check your assumptions, she said, before you assemble 4,900 targets and sail them into the same mistake. Silence fell sharper than any alarm. For a heartbeat, every eye turned to the faded blue emblem. Illyra studied the human for a long, measuring second. Telemetry access is granted to the Terran delegation, she said, on one condition. Mara did not look away. Name it. When your analysis is complete, Illyra replied, you will tell this council whether we are facing a weapon or a law of the universe. Mara's gaze didn't flinch. If it is a weapon, she said, we will show you how it was aimed. If it is a law, she paused, just long enough for the chamber to lean in. Then, we will find the part that can be broken. The hololith flickered back to life, not with stars, but with raw, chaotic streams of data pouring into new channels. Streams now mirrored, quietly, into Terran systems. Around the council, the first votes for the Grand Armada began to register. At the edge of the chamber, humanity started counting. The hololith split into 12 ascending tiers of color and pride, each civilization broadcasting its contribution to the Grand Armada as though unveiling art rather than weapons. Grav sails shimmered, like crystalline wings. Crystalline hulls refracted council lighting into spears of rainbows. Plasma crescents pulsed with contained storms, their curved frames gleaming like ceremonial blades. Every ship class unfurled with theatrical flourish, accompanied by murmurs of admiration and calculated political commentary. The Val Kreth offer 87 Arc-Lance frigates, sang their minister, frills spreading in a proud fan. The ships blossomed in holographic sequence, sleek lines, perfect symmetry. The Vesari contribute 112 Stellaglass cruisers,
chimed the crystalline delegates, their hulls sparkling like carved prisms. Even the Sci-Fi, never subtle, projected their Titan breakers with exaggerated scale, each one casting a shadow over neighboring banners. One by one, the great civilizations placed their jewels on the table. Power, beauty, elegance, an armada built to be admired. Then the final pane lit up. A matte black silhouette appeared, angular, scarred, no glow.
No flourish, no graceful curve, just a heavy, brutal geometry that looked like it had survived a war no one remembered. One ship became 5, 5 became 20, 20 became all 67 Terran vessels, lined in stark formation, their armor pitted like old iron, their spines bristling with weapon mounts that looked disturbingly physical. Then the laughter started. A Viseri crystallite emitted a chiming trill. Are those plates? Actual metal plates? Primitive hull reinforcement, someone agreed. Do they expect to ram the anomaly? A Valkreth delegate leaned forward, eyes gleaming. No gravitic sails, no quantum fins. The Terrans truly cling to fossils. Railgun barrels, muttered another, half amused, half pitying. I haven't seen those outside museums. The Sci-Fi Admiral Vreth rose to his full height, imposing, armored, and entirely too pleased with himself. His mandibles clicked in a grin. 67 relic husks, he declared, loudly enough for half the chamber to hear. Perhaps they should deploy behind our lines. That way, they won't become drifting debris too quickly. Ripples of cruel humor followed, as if the council needed the release, mockery as pressure valve. Humans did not respond. Envoy Mara Patel stood alone beneath the dim blue insignia of her people, her expression unreadable. No shifting frills, no shining plates, no crystalline echoes, just a still pair of eyes and a quiet posture that refused to rise to bait. Her silence irritated the chamber more than any defense would have. Minister Kellor of the Visari tilted his head, shards of light dancing across his angular face. Human, do you object to placement? We can assign your fleet a safe observational perimeter. Patel lifted one hand, not high, not hurried, just enough to be recognized. Our fleet, she said, is already in position. The chamber froze. What? Hissed a Valkreth officer. Vreth leaned forward, amusement evaporating. Impossible! We have not even finalized deployment vectors. Patel's voice remained steady. Terran Fleet Command initiated movement 12 hours ago. All 67 ships are stationed at the anomaly boundary. Hollows rippled as Council systems scrambled to verify. Red markers blinked into existence on the outer map. 67 small signatures arranged in a precise razor-straight line. Cold, dark, silent. They're running no emission pattern, murmured a sensor chief. Power signatures at only 12%. They're baiting something, Vreth growled. Patel didn't blink. We're holding the line until the rest of you arrive. A deeper silence settled, one that wasn't mocking anymore. The Valkreth minister finally spoke, voice thin. Why would you commit your entire fleet so early? Patel's answer was gentle, almost soft. Because time is the one element even your fleets cannot reclaim. The Sci-Fi Admiral's jaw tightened. On the hololith, the Terran ships remained still, matte black teeth at the edge of a dark sea. The Council's laughter had died long before the meeting ended. The Terran fleet drifted in darkness like a row of ancient blades laid across the void. No running lights, no radiance, no ornamental curvature, just 67 matte black hulls, their surfaces scarred from centuries of upgrades and battlefield simulations. Pitted armor plating overlapped in thick, brutal layers. Reinforced spines jutted along the keel lines, each one feeding into weapon housings that looked almost prehistoric beside the elegant vessels of the Council. Yet there was nothing obsolete about their silence. Their stillness felt intentional, like predators conserving strength before a strike. Inside the flagship TSV Vindicator, the contrast was jarring. Where the exterior evoked rusted relics of forgotten wars, the interior hummed with cold, surgical precision. Blue targeting grids floated in layered arrays over the tactical table. AI threat projections pulsed in clean intervals. Predictive comp models updated every 7 seconds, cycling through thousands of anomaly outcomes. Nothing in the ship's core felt old. It felt sharpened. Admiral Rhea Salas stood at the forward rail, eyes locked on the anomaly vector. The stars beyond it flickered wrong, not dimmed, just irregular, as if the void itself was adjusting its breath. Her officers worked in quiet rhythm around her, each movement efficient, measured, disciplined. Colony status reports updated, said Lieutenant Vega as he slid a holopad onto the display. 6 spheres appeared, arranged like a constellation only humans recognized. Solace tapped the first, Heaven Prime. Shields in deep cycle mode, defensive lattice at 98%, evacuation corridors ready. Vega's voice carried no fear, only data. They can sustain an impact if the phenomenon replicates. The Admiral nodded and tapped the next, Solstice Ridge. Thermal regulators stable, civilian shelters fully sealed. Predictive models show a 32% chance the anomaly vector rotates toward them. And the others? She asked. Arcadia, Greywatch, Lumen's Gate, and Outpost 9 all report readiness. Centuries of planning finally being used. A quiet murmur went through the bridge, more acknowledgement than emotion. The 6 hidden colonies were humanity's long game, built across forgotten routes, tucked behind nebulas and drifting asteroid fields. Every structure, every buried generator, every reinforced dome existed because humanity once predicted a universal threat no one else believed could exist. Not extinction by empire, extinction by mathematics. Anomaly fluctuation, called the sensor chief. Microspike at vector 08. No collapse event yet, but field tension is rising. The bridge dimmed as holographic overlays thickened into high alert mode. Red rings pulsed outward from the anomaly's core. Each ring represented 1 second of survival loss should the collapse pattern repeat. Solace folded her hands behind her back. Update our firing tables. Route all solutions through AI Tier 3, human verification only. Yes, Admiral. And reduce all emissions to minimal drift. We hold position. Vega glanced at her. If the Council takes too long? They will, she said calmly, because they must. The anomaly shimmered again, just a breath of distortion, but enough to stir tension in the air. Admiral Solace lifted her chin. We hold until the Council arrives, she said quietly, every syllable precise. Then we predict. The Armada did not arrive quietly. It tore into real space in layered spirals of color, 4,900 ships blooming like a metallic sunrise. Radiant grav sails unfurled in slow ceremonial arcs. Crystalline cruisers caught starlight and shattered it into prisms. Plasma dreadnoughts pulsed with the soft glow of caged storms. Even in a crisis, the Council could not resist spectacle. Their fleets were designed as much for admiration as for war. Admiral Rithar of the Valkreth watched the formation. Perfect alignment, he murmured. Not even a phase tremor on entry. Beside him, the Visari minister chimed in glassy approval. A proper answer to the anomaly. Orderly, unified, beautiful. Then the beauty met the dark. On the tactical display, the Terran signatures appeared, small, matte black silhouettes spaced like teeth across the anomaly boundary. No light, no flourish, no motion.
just 67 relic hulls absorbing starlight like carved obsidian. Rithar's frills lowered. Are they powered down? Reading minimal output, the sensor officer replied. Only 12% of baseline emissions. That's below even passive patrol standards. The minister emitted a shimmering laugh. They're conserving energy. Or hiding. Humans do that. Or their reactors are failing, muttered Rithar. Another hologram flashed as a Sarakai Commodore joined the channel, mandibles flexing. Terran Fleet, this is Commodore Velk of the Sarakai Dominion. We acknowledge your position. For your safety, fall back 10,000 clicks and align behind our formation. The message broadcast across all fleets. Polite, rehearsed, patronizing. On the human line, nothing moved. Velk tried again, voice dipping into command. Terran Fleet, reposition immediately. Your vessels are not equipped for frontline exposure. If the anomaly creates debris, your hulls will not withstand. A calm voice cut through the channels. Negative, said Admiral Rhea Salas. This is the firing line. The chamber aboard Rithar's flagship fell still. Repeat, Rithar demanded. The human voice did not rise in volume, did not edge into emotion. It simply repeated. Negative. Terran Fleet holds position. Velk's mandibles clicked in irritation. Humans, this is not the time for stubborn pride. This is not pride, Salas replied. This is placement. Rithar glared at his display. What are they doing? Their ships are cold. Their weapons aren't charged. But the telemetry stubbornly refused to change. 12% power, no shield glow, no engine signatures. The Terran fleet looked dead. Dead or waiting. Could be faulty readings, suggested a Visari analyst. Unlikely, countered a Volkreth tactician. Even human technology broadcasts more than that. Rithar leaned closer, narrowing his eyes at the strange angular silhouettes. They're doing this on purpose. For what purpose? The minister asked. To be underestimated, Rithar said, though the words tasted wrong. But why invite vulnerability? Velk growled, because they're fools. On the human flagship, Admiral Salas watched the anomaly shimmer, its faint distortions ticking upward like a heartbeat approaching arrhythmia. Behind her, predictive models aligned with slow, predatory precision. Telemetry updated, her sensor chief murmured. Council fleet fully deployed. They believe we're running cold. Good, Salas said. Hold at 12%, no changes. Even with them watching? Especially with them watching. Out in the void, 4,900 radiant ships adjusted into their elegant formation, and 67 silent relics waited, cold, dark, and perfectly placed. The order came wrapped in ceremony. Admiral Rithar stood at the center of the Valkreth's flagship's bridge, surrounded by shimmering tactical displays and bowing attendants. A demonstration volley, he declared, to reassure our homeworlds and remind the anomaly that we are not passive observers. Polite applause echoed across the multi-species command channel. In truth, no one needed reassurance. They needed to feel powerful. And nothing radiated authority like 4,900 ships firing in flawless unison. Target the Terran line? Asked a Visari minister, voice chiming. Not to destroy, Rithar replied, just to push them aside. Their hulls won't withstand a fraction of the output. Sarakai Commodore Velk chuckled, mandibles hanging open. They insisted on holding the line. Let them feel it. What a real fleet can do. The targeting arcs converged. Plasma crescents brightened. Crystalline hulls refracted light into spiraling beams. Gravitic cannons pulsed as energy built to a deafening crescendo. Demonstration volley,
Rithar ordered. Fire. The stars vanished. A wall of energy equal to a stellar flare leapt from the armada, thousands of beams merging into a single blinding sweep. The strike washed across the void, overwhelming every visual sensor. The chamber AI dimmed every screen automatically, but it wasn't enough. Light engulfed everything. Impact on Terran formation, the sensor chief announced. How many survivors? Velk asked eagerly. Hard to tell, Admiral. The energy. Then the light grew brighter. The entire display went white. Reduce gain, Rithar barked. Stabilize the feed. Attempting, negative response. The reflection coefficient. This isn't reflection, it's absorption. For 18 full seconds, the council could see nothing but glare. Delegations leaned forward in tense satisfaction. The Visari minister whispered, Relics never stood a chance. Others murmured about replacement ships, debris patterns, casualty estimates. Some began discussing how to manage Terran embarrassment. Then the white began to fade, first to gray, then to scattered specks. Then, with a quiet flicker, the tactical display resolved. 67 silhouettes remained in perfect formation, untouched. Rithar's frills launched straight up in shock. No, that is not possible. Telemetry incoming, the sensor officer stammered. Reading intact hulls, 0 structural breaches, 0 critical failures. Impossible, Velk roared. Our volley carried enough energy to destabilize a moon. On the Terran line, the black holes glimmered faintly, as though the absorbed energy traced their armor seams in molten veins. Capacitor banks surged, numbers rising in geometric progression. Capacitor charge at 84%, 87, 90, the sensor chief. They're charging! In the human flagship's bridge, the lights barely flickered. No alarms, no shouts, no panic. Only disciplined voices and the soft hum of advancing systems. A communications officer spoke with calm precision. Energy absorbed, redirecting. Her tone carried the weight of inevitability. On council channels, voices erupted into chaos. That can't be! Energy armor is theoretical! They should be vapor! Check for decoy hulls, check for shields, check anything! Admiral Rhea Salas watched the anomaly ahead, unfazed, her hands clasped behind her back. Begin capacitor routing to primary rail batteries, she instructed. Yes, Admiral. Output stable. Back on Rithar's bridge, a Valkreth aide cried out, Admiral, it's feeding their weapons! Their power spikes are climbing! Fast! Velk stared at the screen, mandibles frozen mid-click. We charged them, he whispered. Rithar's voice cracked. No, we armed them. The Terran ships shifted, just a ripple along the formation, like predators inhaling. Retention spike detonated. The Terran fleet came alive without a sound. One moment, the Relic ships were cold silhouettes. The next, thin lines of blue-white ignition ran along their armored spines. Quiet, sharp, predatory. No flares, no theatrical radiance. Just systems engaging with the calm inevitability of an avalanche beginning its first slide. On the Council flagship, Admiral Rithar's frills flattened. They're powering weapons. Confirm that reading. Confirmed, the sensor chief stammered. Rail signatures. Admiral, those are railgun spools. Multiple batteries. Charging fast. Railguns, a Visari minister scoffed. Primitive toys. Our plasma screens. The words died as the first Terran firing table locked. A ripple traveled down the Terran line. Rail batteries aligned, silent but unmistakable. Tungsten rods, dense, spear-like munitions, older than half the civilizations in the chamber, slid into magnetic channels.
Then the acceleration field snapped open. Velocity rising, 6% of C, 9, 11. The council sensor officer's voice climbed into panic. 15%! They're accelerating to 15% of light speed! That is impossible, Rithar barked. It's happening! The first volley launched. The railguns fired not with the grand thunder plasma weapons used, but with a low, terrifying thum, a sound like the universe being punched in the ribs. 3 tungsten rods crossed 2,000 kilometers almost instantly. Impact 1.4 seconds. The nearest council cruiser didn't explode. It folded. Its shields, built to diffuse plasma, not blunt force extinction, collapsed instantly. The tungsten spears tore straight through its crystalline hull, exiting in a burst of debris that glittered like shattered diamonds. The cruiser split open, venting atmosphere and bodies into the void. The council chamber froze. That wasn't elegant warfare, whispered a Visari officer. That was survival combat, growled Rithar, completing the thought with dread. More guns fired. More rods screamed forward at relativistic speed. The second council wing broke apart before any admiral issued a defensive order. Plasma shields fizzled uselessly. Gravitic sails sheared away like paper. In the first 8 seconds, 12 council vessels were simply gone, punched through, gutted, erased with mathematical efficiency. Then the Terran strike craft launched. Small, angular interceptors burst from hidden bays, their engines igniting with violent surges. Alien navigators scrambled to track them. "They're accelerating," a Sarakai tactician shouted. 9G, 12G, 18. No, that's 31G. No living pilot could. "They're AI assisted," someone answered, voice breaking. "Humans built them for..." The next line came from an officer who had been silently staring at the tactical feed, trembling as if a memory from a long-lost war had clawed its way back. "They built weapons to survive extinction." The bridge fell silent. Out in the void, Terran's strike craft carved through formation gaps with impossible sharpness. They cut across plasma arcs, evaded gravitic pulses, and rammed kinetic slugs into exposed command nodes. Every hit was fatal, every maneuver pre-planned, every action timed to predicted council panic responses. The council fleets tried to adjust tactics, but their formations weren't built for chaotic brawls. They were built for ceremony, for yielding space with elegance, for shielded duels at set distances. The Terrans ignored all of it. They closed the range. A third council cruiser exploded under a concentrated rail barrage. A wing of Visari frigates attempted a retreat, only to be bracketed by tungsten fire. Gravitic dreadnoughts suffered catastrophic hull implosions as high-velocity rods punched through their structural anchors. "We're losing ships faster than we can track," someone screamed. "Raise shields." "They don't care about shields." "We need to fall back, fall back." But the Terran line advanced, not with triumph, not with emotion, but with the cold inevitability of a guillotine blade descending. In less than a minute, the battle had shifted from spectacle to slaughter. And the Council finally understood that the Relic fleet wasn't a relic at all. It was a warning they had failed to read. The battle dissolved into numbers long before the admirals understood the meaning behind them. In the void, Terran ships moved like instruments of a single, ruthless equation. Each maneuver predicted, each strike pre-modeled, each outcome already solved. The Council's elegant formations, crafted for display, for diplomacy, for slow, shimmering war, broke the instant they were asked to survive reality. The first set piece erupted when a Sarakai gravitic dreadnought attempted a broadside. Its sails flared with radiant arcs, trying to push a wave of force through the Terran line. The TSV Halcyon slid under the surge with precise, micro-thruster bursts, locking its spines onto the dreadnought's underbelly. 3 kinetic spears launched point-blank
punching through grav generators designed only for plasma resistance. The entire dreadnought convulsed, its field collapsing like a ruptured lung before falling silent, disabled, not destroyed. Dreadnought down, no fatalities registered, a Velkreth sensor chief whispered, disbelief cracking in his voice. The Halcyon had already moved on. Further out, a wing of 20 Visari grav ships attempted a spiraling retreat maneuver, an elegant spiral meant to confuse plasma targeting. Terran predictive firing tables tore the illusion apart. The TSV Razorwind pivoted, rail batteries adjusting micro-degrees at blistering pace. Tungsten slugs cut through the spiral like needles through silk. Each hit aimed not at reactors or hulls, but at control nodes and sail anchors. All 20 ships dropped out of rotation within 6 seconds. Who fires that accurately? The Visari minister gasped, crystalline tones shaking. Who plans for these angles? Someone who rehearsed our panic, muttered a Sarakai officer, voice small. Then came the moment that froze every admiral mid-breath. The TSV Resolute, a medium cruiser by human standards, an antique by council reckoning, charged headfirst into a cluster of fleeing ships. No flanking run, no graceful arc, just a direct insertion into the heart of chaos. It pivoted its armored prow, then unleashed a fan spread of kinetic strikes that rippled across the field like a surgeon tearing through bone. A Velkreth officer stared at the feed in horror. How many did it just hit? Telemetry confirms. The sensor chief paused, swallowed, then whispered the number like a confession. 112 vessels, disabled. In 47 seconds, 0 fatalities. Impossible, Rithar rasped. That is impossible. But the numbers didn't care about his disbelief. On the left flank, the TSV Ironclad plowed through a layer formation of plasma battleships, its thick armor shedding molten residue as it drove straight through the triangle pattern. Terran AI targeted command masts, sensor vanes, and heat exchangers in perfect sequence. 1 barrage, 2, 3, each strike removing the ability to coordinate. That entire sector's command layer collapsed, an 82% loss of leadership nodes. The remaining ships scattered like startled insects. This isn't a battle, murmured the Visari minister. It's a correction. No one argued. Every screen in the command chamber showed the same horrifying truth. Terran relic ships, ugly, scarred, silent, were dismantling the galaxy's most admired fleets with mathematical cruelty. Rithar's voice cracked. How are they doing this? Our fleets are superior. Our ships were designed to be beautiful, someone whispered. No plasma weapon matters at that range, said another. Those relics, Velk breathed, mandibles hanging limp, they were never relics. They were built for the kind of war we pretend does not exist. Terran ships closed again, relentless and quiet. Every volley landed exactly where it needed to. Every alien reaction had already been predicted. Retention Spike 3 rolled through the chamber like a shockwave. In less than a minute, the Council's Grand Armada, 4,900 Radiant ships, looked like a drifting field of wounded glass. And the Relic fleet, cold and dark and inevitable, moved on to the next calculation. Retreat began as a whisper, one panicked order buried beneath static, and then spread like fire through the collapsing armada. "Break formation," a Visari captain cried. "Full burn, any direction, just move." "All wings, scatter," shouted a Sarakai commodore. "We cannot hold. Repeat, we cannot." But the void refused them. Invisible lines snapped into place across the battle space, an interdiction lattice projected from Terran cruisers hidden deeper in the relic formation. It wasn't flashy. It didn't glow with plasma or hum with gravitic resonance. It simply was, a subtle distortion in local space that clamped down on jump cores and folded every escape vector into a dead end.
Sector 4, jump drive locked. Sector 8, phase transition aborted. We're trapped. 3 sectors are unable to retreat, a Valkreth sensor chief whispered. The humans cut off our exits. What weapon is this? Admiral Rithar demanded. No weapon, murmured a terrified aide. It's predictive interdiction. They mapped every escape path before we even opened one. Across all 3 sectors, hundreds of Council ships drifted without direction, holding power only because the alternative was surrender or annihilation. Then, the Terrans broadcast coordinates. A single message pinged across every alien bridge, delivered in clean Terran standard. Safe surrender corridors, transmitting. Follow green vectors. Lower weapon output. You will not be fired upon. Silence, thicker than fear, filled the bridge. Council's command chamber? They're offering us surrender lanes? The Vasari minister asked, voice cracking like chipped glass. Why? Velk demanded, shaking. Why spare us? They could finish us with a single volley. The tactical officer swallowed hard. Admiral, casualty projections updated. Terran strikes avoided critical reactor hits. Structural breakdown without core breaches. Total estimated Council fatalities? He stared at the number as if it were a hallucination. 9,400. Rithar's frills flared in shock. Out of nearly 5,000 ships hit? No, Admiral, that is the number saved. The officer's voice trembled. Predicted loss without targeted non-lethal strikes was over 50,000. The chamber reeled. Humans, whom the Council had dismissed as primitive, violent, barbaric, had used their overwhelming advantage not to slaughter, but to disable, to disarm, to minimize death. They held back, whispered the Vasari minister, with firepower like... That, they held back. They spared us, another murmured. Why? Velk demanded again. Why show mercy after we mocked them? The answer arrived in the form of a final open-channel broadcast. Admiral Rhea Solis appeared in holographic projection, still, composed, illuminated by the soft blue glow of Terran tactical grids. No triumph in her expression, no anger, only inevitability. Council fleets, she said, follow the surrender corridors. No further ships need be harmed. Her gaze shifted slightly, as though acknowledging the stunned faces watching across the armada. War is mathematics, she said. Mercy is policy. The words hit harder than any tungsten spear. Council officers, bloodied, terrified, humbled, slowly lowered their shields. Engines dimmed, weapons powered down. One by one, radiant vessels drifted into Terran-designed lanes lit by faint green pulses. And for the first time since the stars began to die, the galaxy obeyed a human command. Repair crews worked in eerie quiet. Thousands of alien officers, once proud, once radiant, stood aboard Terran stabilization platforms as prisoners, though the treatment felt nothing like captivity. Medics moved with calm efficiency. Atmosphere seals hissed into place. Disabled Council ships were tethered, not stripped. It unsettled the aliens more than chains would have. This restraint, whispered a Veserai lieutenant as Terran engineers patched her cruiser's ruptured sail. It frightens me more than their weapons. Her Sarakai counterpart nodded, mandibles tight. They break fleets like glass, then rebuild them. What kind of species fights like this? The answer came before either could ponder it. Deep-range sensor klaxons wailed through the Terran flagship Vindicator. The sound was low, mechanical, unmistakably different from normal alerts. It vibrated with urgency. Admiral Rhea Solis stepped onto the command deck as a cascade of red vectors spread across the hololith. Report. New contact, the sensor chief replied, hands shaking despite years of training. Far Rim Sector Gamma 7. Not organic, not plasma-based, not gravitic, something colder. The display magnified. A signature appeared, geometric, perfect, terrifyingly still. Its shape did not drift, it did not correct course. It simply moved with absolute purpose, cutting through the void like a thought-given steel. Composition? Solace asked. Unknown. Reads metallic, but it's more than that. Field harmonics are structured, repeating every 0.9 seconds. Whatever this is, it's old. Very old. How old? Asked a shaken Volkreth technician listening in from a stabilization vessel. Older than our records, came the quiet reply. Possibly older than your civilization. A Sarakai admiral, still wounded from battle, forced himself upright. Is it another anomaly event? Will it collapse a system? No, Solace said. This time, something is moving. The hololith zoomed again, rendering its course. A single vector line extended from the far rim straight toward charted space. Estimated contact in 11 days, the sensor chief announced, assuming constant velocity. Alien delegates from every sector connected to the channel. Faces pale, frills tight, crystalline tones wavering. The council had just been humbled by humans using weapons thousands of years old. Their fleets, beautiful, ceremonial, fragile, had folded under kinetic octron. And now, something far worse approached. Admiral Rithar spoke with none of his former arrogance. Our ships cannot survive another conflict, not against an enemy that ignores plasma screens, not against something like this. The Visari minister added, trembling, "We admit it. Our doctrines are obsolete. Our formations are decorative. We are not built for extinction wars." The chamber fell silent. All eyes turned to the Terran admiral. Rhea Solace clasped her hands behind her back. Transmit all prisoner locations to Coalition Command. Begin reallocation of Council forces under Terran supervision? You mean, a Valkreth captain stammered, you're taking command? Solace did not raise her voice. She didn't need to. The galaxy needs a line that does not break. We will build it. She turned to her operations officer. Initiate formation protocols. From this moment forward, all species fall under a unified defensive command. The hololith shifted. 67 Terran relics forming a spear point, with captured council vessels folding into layered arcs behind them. A new emblem appeared over the tactical map. The Aegis line. A calm, steady pulse marked its center. Rithar exhaled sharply, a sound halfway between fear and relief. We follow. The Visari minister bowed his crystalline head. We obey. Across 3 sectors, thousands of alien officers, recent enemies, recently humbled, aligned their ships on Terran coordinates. The machine's signature continued its silent approach. And the galaxy, finally aware of its own fragility, placed its survival in human hands. Shattered moon hung in orbit like a broken shield, its surface cracked into jagged continents of stone and drifting regolith. Beneath its fractured glow, the reorganized coalition gathered in tense formation. Council ships, once radiant, delicate, ceremonial, now floated half-disassembled as Terran engineers swarmed across their hulls. Panels were stripped, gravitic sails removed, crystal plating carved away. In its place, thick armor slabs were welded on in dull, unforgiving layers. Gone was the elegance. In its place, survivability. Valkreth escorts tested new reinforced keels. Visari cruisers bristled with hybrid tungsten rails. Sarakai dreadnoughts received hardening spines and Terran-style heat-shedding arrays. Every fleet reshaped itself not for parade lanes, but for impact, recoil, and kinetic hellfire.
This feels wrong, a Vasari lieutenant murmured as fresh armor clamped over his ship's shimmering frame. Ugly. It'll keep you alive, the Terran foreman replied, tightening a tie bar. Mag bolt. Ugly is fine. Above them, the command hololith pulsed with a new transmission. A machine signal. Cold. Perfect. Terrifying. The waveforms repeated every 0.9 seconds. Precise, identical, unchanging. No language, no emotion. Just a structured declaration that scraped at the mind like metal on bone. It's a targeting sequence, the sensor chief whispered, not a greeting. Alien officers shuddered. The council had never faced anything that didn't negotiate, didn't posture, didn't fear. The machine species wasn't approaching as an army. It was approaching as a process. On the Terran flagship Vindicator, Admiral Rhea Solace observed the signal in silence. Around her, the Relic fleet awaited. 67 warships, battered and old, now joined by hundreds of refitted coalition vessels tightening into a spearhead. Operation Stormfront is ready, reported Commander Vega. All coalition ships synced to Terran firing tables. Predictive models stable. We can intercept the entity before it reaches populated space. Solace shifted her gaze to the tactical map. The Aegis line extended like a blade pointed at the far rim. Transmit to all fleets, she said. Her voice broadcast across thousands of bridges, Terran, Sarakai, Vesari, Valkreth, and more. Every crew fell silent. Every officer listened. The first shot proved your beliefs wrong, she said. The next will define our future. Across the coalition, engines ignited, thousands of them, casting pale fire across the shattered moon. The relics surged forward. The galaxy followed, and the saga began.